Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello, you're watching the Spirit of Life program. My name is Lucia Pace, and today my guest is Mathew Haycock. Mathew claims that he gave a moment to God and God gave him back a lifetime. Great claim there, Mathew. Very interested in knowing a little bit about your background. What set the scene to this moment that you gave to God?
Well, I grew up in Canberra, south side, and I went to a Christian school, and I felt that at the time my parents were Christian, and my dad was Anglican and my mum was Catholic, but they fought quite a bit. And in primary school we were going to church, and then when primary school kind of finished for me, my parents said, well, you don't have to go to church anymore, we won't make you. And so I thought, well, great, I don't have to go anymore, so I won't. And year 7 came around and lots of my friends moved away, and that was a particularly hard point for me, because I found that a lot of strength in my life came from my friends, considering my family life was kind of a bit uprooted. So I tried to fit in my school environment that I just found, and all my friends had gone to other places, so I couldn't really find a real grip. And so I guess I put on a bit of a rebellious kind of mode, a rebellious kind of exterior or a skeleton, and or a shell, I should say. And I kind of tried to be the tough guy in the school. I tried to let that lead my kind of life, my social life and everything. And I found myself degradingly leading myself more and more towards just a negative way of life. Like I found myself a little bit erring on the depression side, but was never diagnosed. And I found, I really was trying to find acceptance and worth, and it all just kind of started coming out. So I kind of call the years 7 to 9 in my life the dark ages, as it is for a lot of young people these days. And it wasn't until year 10 where I really kind of started to come back out of that, and realising that my bad boy attitude in the high school environment really wasn't cutting much cheese. You know, it didn't win me any friends in the long run. I only had a couple of close counterparts that I could really rely on and trust in. And I didn't really feel like I'd found that acceptance. I didn't really feel like I'd found something worth chasing for the rest of my life, or something that would draw me on beyond the average everyday kind of Joe Blow kind of lifestyle.
Okay, and so what happened then?
We had a youth chaplain at our high school who was who would wander the grounds and just talk to young people, and was quite out there. But being a youth group in 2006 and 2005, it was the daggiest thing. No one wanted to be seen with this guy. No one wanted to be seen with the youth group. And so, steering clear of that as much as possible. But he came up to me one day and said, Matt, would you like to help out a little bit with a reflection day with doing some audio? And I had a couple of friends who I'd been working out some audio stuff with, and I was quite excited by the idea of working on some audio stuff. So I wasn't necessarily going along for the sake of whatever they were doing. I was like, I'm going to get some more experience with audio gear. So
what were they doing?
They were holding a reflection day for the school,
Okay.
and which was kind of like it was just that. It was a day to reflect for the young people on their faith and their high school year and all that sort of thing. So I went along to the day, and to my surprise, I was just setting up the gear kind of by myself, and one of the guys from the youth group of the school came up to me and started having a chat with me. And I noticed pretty much straight away that he was really interested in me, and I didn't really understand why. Most of the people in my life at that time were only there because they had to be, like you have your teachers and your parents and your boss. And they're all people that I guess care for you in one way or another. But your teachers and your bosses are there because you either are learning from them or you have a job to do and you're getting paid. And this guy he was there because he wanted to be, and I didn't get it. So it kind of mystified me a little bit. And so I think in high school I was just like going along with the trend and with the crowd. And then when that happened, I was kind of like, well, he's
gobsmacked.
Yeah, he's changed my view, I guess, of what a human person is supposed to be. So when this was the change that was taking place in my mind, slowly undercurrent kind of underpinning change. And so I went along to the high school youth group at a lunchtime one day, and there were people jumping on high jump mats, and there was music going on and free food, and it was all kind of like all the surface level kind of luxuries of life, you know, sugary delights and nice people. But, you know, I didn't really want to be seen with them too much, so I'd go for the stuff, and then I'd kind of go back out into the ground, play footy, and hang out with what I thought were my real mates, you know. And then I just, you know, I started falling away from them as they sort of see a bit of a change in me, and they sort of, you know, thought I was a bit of a dag for going to this youth group. And so a couple of the guys, you know, just got a bit tentative around me and all that sort of thing. So I thought, you know, well, these guys are pretty genuine, and my footy mates are kind of just, you know, just being, you know, just throwing the cause to the wind. Yeah, just. So I just thought, you know, well, I'll just hang out there a little bit and just see what happens. And then we started taking, the high school youth chaplain started taking young people to high school age kind of youth rallies on Friday nights. And at that stage, I found myself quite excited by the idea of being around, you know, 30, 40 other young people, and there was music happening and all these sorts of kind of crazy warfare kind of games, and it was a really exciting atmosphere. And so I really wanted to find out what all this was about, and went to that, and before I knew it, I was kind of sucked into the culture but didn't know what any of it meant. And that's kind of where I think I started to really pick up a bit of a vision to see beyond what the normal is.
Okay. That's really interesting so far. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the story. We're going to have to go to a break, so hang in there. We'll be back shortly. Hi, welcome back. You're watching the Spirit of Life program. My guest today is Mathew Haycock, and who claims he gave God a moment and God gave him back a lifetime. Hi, Mathew.
Hi there.
Mathew, before the break, you mentioned something about you now started to see a vision beyond the normal.
Yeah.
Can you take us up from that point, please?
Well, I think what I was trying to get at was that in that moment of my life in high school, I found, like with the rest of the young people in my school, there was a lot of prejudice towards Christianity. It was seen outdated, you know, daggy, you know, it was just, didn't really have anything to offer. And so I guess when I started going along to these Friday night rallies, these experiences, I guess, of just, well, they were in essence just a gathering of young people having fun. You know, there was bands and music and all sorts of things like that. But I think the vision that was being changed in me was my perception of those people and Christianity from those people, you know. So I saw through them, I guess, a more authentic way of living. You know, what they said is what they did, and, you know, they cared, you know. I once heard this amazing quote from someone that I'll never forget. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Oh, wow. And that's always stuck powerful with me, you know, because I think at the time I understood the culture as being one of knowledge is power, and I would never have guessed that I'd be led to believe and to now know as truth that to care about someone is more important than to know something.
Indeed,
you know?
Indeed.
And that's what I experienced there. I experienced people caring for me in a real way, and that kind of led me to see that, you know, Christianity might not be all bad. But at the time I still was kind of closed off to it because I was so far. I had quite a negative experience in what I called the Dark Ages previously. And some of those things were quite destructive. Drugs and alcohol and substance abuse and violence, and leading other young people into that as well. I was quite an introvert, but I kind of put on a bit of a false self and tried to make all that the new reality. Anyway, so when I really began to see this new vision, I was curious. I was really curious. And I was invited along to a conference up in Sydney for a week, and they said there'd be all this kind of stuff that I was experiencing, the fun and games, the activities, all that sort of stuff, and I'd at that point been starting to get into music as well, and they were having music workshops, and I was like, I'm there, you know. So I went along for a week, and for the first few days it was kind of cruisy. There was a lot of this stuff they were saying, and I was having a lot of good fun with my friends that I'd made, the new friends, and it wasn't until one of these evenings where a lot of young people, it's about 20,000 of us to be exact.
Oh goodness!
So a lot.
That is a lot.
We all
number.
went to an evening rally at the Sydney Superdome, and there was supposed to be motocross there and bands and all sorts of things happening.
Was this to do with the World Youth Day?
This was in 2005, and this was a Hillsong youth conference.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was a Pentecostal rally, and I went in there thinking this is just going to be fun and you know, and going to come out, you know, having a good time with my friends, had a few photos and good time, you know. Halfway through the evening, they said that they were going to go into a bit of a time of worship. And I was really, at that point, as soon as I heard those words and I saw people raise their hands into the air, I was like, what have I got myself into? This is really out of my grips here. I'm out of my depths, you know. And I even used the words in my mind, you know, cultish. You know, this is a cult. What am I doing here? You know. And I dashed my eyes around for an exit, and I couldn't see a way of getting out that wouldn't have disturbed all my friends and the people around me, because I was up in one of the top rows. And so I thought to myself, look, I'll just sit down and just, you know, forget about this happened, and then I'll just go back to Canberra, you know, a couple of days, and just, you know, it'll all be over. And as I was sitting there, I began to think why 20,000 people were doing the same thing all at the same time. And I don't know, I just thought that, and then another thought popped into my head, and my friend going to say, you know, did you get into the worship time? Did you get excited? Did you participate? And I thought, well, look, I'm going to have to tell him that I did something, you know, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to disappoint my friend. And so I thought, you know, I'll just, you know, stand up, throw my hands to the sky and sit back down, and then I can say that I participated and there'll be no hard feelings, you know. So that's literally what I did. And that was the moment that I let God move.
That was the moment you gave to God.
That was the moment, because it was only a mustard seed and it was only small, but He really made a giant tree of it, you know, as we can see. So kind of what happened was when I put my hands up in the air, I felt this tingly warm sensation kind of come down from my hands and then go all through my body, and I was kind of really confused and really overwhelmed, but I knew, you know, deep down that God was right there with me, and He was saying, you know, I love you and I want you to share this with people, you know. So immediately I knew God was real, and immediately there was a switch that took place in my personality over the next few days as well. I was quite introverted beforehand, and then I was just on fire, you know, because I wanted people to know about this thing I encountered that was unlike anything that I'd ever encountered before. And it was actually the moment where I also found that acceptance that I was looking for all those years. The moment that I found the truth that we're all pilgrims on a journey towards, you know, that He's tangible, you know. He's not just a silent figure, you know. I've experienced a tangible God. And that's the moment when it kind of, my whole life just took a leap forward. To becoming what I call a real life, you know, a life in the Spirit. So I would say that was kind of the big experience, and then coming back from that, it was kind of just a roll-on effect. And that was kind of the climax of what I call, I guess, my spiritual conversion.
Wow, how exciting, very dramatic, and such a personal encounter with the Spirit.
Yeah, not a lot of people have an encounter like that, but
it comes in different ways to
glad
different
to
people.
have had that.
Mathew, we're going to a break. Looking forward to hearing the rest of your story.
Thank you, Lucy.
Back soon. Hang in there, we'll be back soon.
Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Welcome back. My guest today is Mathew Haycock, who claims that he gave God a moment and God gave him back a lifetime. Great claim. Matthew, you, before the break, shared with us that you had a real encounter with the Spirit of God in time of praise and worship. Right, what happened then? So where's it taken you from there? So now you know God's real. Now you know you're loved. Now you know God can see you.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They're not your words, but I'm assuming that that's what's
that was pretty close, yeah.
Okay, so you're in media now. You're studying media.
Yeah, I'm studying.
How did that
film.
evolve? What happened for you there?
Well, I guess after that encounter with God, I really wanted to spread this good news, as I said. So I went back to school, and in my school environment, I was one of the only people practicing my faith. But I got really involved with youth group and started to help out in any way I could, and music, and doing anything that I could, just on a small time basis. Like I wasn't any big music leader or anything like that. But I did small pieces here and there. And by year 12, I kind of I guess I'd realised my potential in some of those gifts and giftings and areas, and I started to move further and further into those gifts, and one of them was media, and I found that actually at youth group. Interestingly enough, we were doing a retreat day for a school at a local church centre, and I was videoing part of the day, and then I was asked, do you want to put pieces of this together and just edit it together for a bit of a promotion? And I said, yeah, no worries. I can't guarantee, because I've never done this before, if it'll be any good. But I put something together, and I spent a lot of time on it, and I brought it in, and it was shown at the youth group. And I saw people's faces light up. And I think in a way that was, God saying something to me through some of my skills and gifts. Yeah. And I also started to pick up a lot more leadership giftings and things like that in year 12. And one morning on the top of a mountain with my school youth group, we were praying, and we went to have some silent prayer by ourselves for a little while, and I was just talking to God going, there's such an amazing amount of people in our school and amazing amount of leaders in our youth group, and they all seem like they've got their life together. What do you want me to do with mine? And I started praying this prayer, and I really felt the sense of God wanted to say to me, I want you to evangelize to young people through media. Okay. And that has, in a sense, become a bit of a vision for my life, a bit of a vision statement. And I guess after year 12, I did a lot of design work, and I was still doing a lot of youth ministry and youth work. And in 2008 and 2009, I did an advanced diploma of media, and I started a business in video production and graphic design. Wow. And that was subcontracted to businesses, and I also started working for Choices Media, which has become Australia's biggest Catholic media organisation. Goodness. And
is this in Melbourne or before?
Oh, it was in Canberra.
Oh, in Canberra.
Yeah, just up in Canberra, and loved working for them. And then in 2010, I decided to come on full time in the stuff, and not just do subcontracting work. And for about 8 months, I was working for them full time and developing media resources for young people. And I was also helping out a lot with youth ministry and things like that. And I found that I think that in about 2008, I was invited to an event called World Youth Day, and I was paid for, the ticket was paid for, and that's where I really came to a bit of a more, coming back to my Catholic roots, and I found Jesus in the sacrament again. I found him in the Blessed Sacrament on the altar, and he really spoke to me and was tangibly there with me, and that's when I knew I needed to start bringing myself back to the centre of who I really am deep down, and that is, my Catholic identity. And from there, just a lot of things took place. I was going overseas on mission trips. In 2011, I did the youth mission team, and God's just been using me in so many tangible ways since to bring the gospel to young people through media and just through speaking my own life story as well as the story of others, and helping everyone just to kind of come holistically to an approach that Christianity is fun, it's full of life, and it's really the best thing.
Wow. And I can see how you gave God a moment, and he gave you such an enriched lifetime back, so colourful, so full of life. and also getting to know who you are. And I think too the fact that he's allowed you to see your attributes, whereas you were a little bit lost when you first started telling me the story. You know, you were very lost of who you were, where you were going, what you were doing. And here now I can see that you've got a vision of, you know, at least a pathway where God's placed you in. Okay, so what's happened now? You're studying, obviously, in media?
Yeah. I'm finishing a Bachelor in Film Production, and I hope to make feature films in the future, promoting life and I guess an honest story. I love telling an honest story. So yeah, I guess it's going to be a long journey, but I'm ready for whatever tasks God's going to put in front of me, and just taking it step by step, I guess.
Are you planning to write and produce, or?
Direct is kind of my field, I think, at the moment. I'm an editor by trade in video production and a graphic designer, but I think at the moment I'm feeling I'm called more to telling the story.
We've got about 2 minutes to run. I just wonder if you could tell me why the shift to Melbourne, what instigated that?
Well, I guess it comes a time in every man's life where he has to separate from the family in a way just to kind of keep growing forward. But I think for me it was there were no film courses in Canberra that were worthy of just creating a good position for me in the industry. And Melbourne as being a bit of a cultural and arts centre, I decided to move down to Melbourne and find a bit of a base there. So I came down to Melbourne and I've had such a great experience of the film industry so far. I've done a few Christian music videos. I've helped out on a few films here and there, and it's just been a great experience overall. And I'm loving the life and the culture here. It's a lot more up my alley. We've got the city and laid back, and it's all there.
Wow, Mathew, your story is so exciting. I tell you, it's real, and it's such an encouraging story for young ones. It's really wonderful to interview someone your age, and if God's done this to this point, I'd hate to see where he's going to take you. You've got a lot. I think he's got a lot in store for you, Mathew. Thank you for coming on our program.
You're welcome.
You've been watching the Spirit of Life program. We'll see you again next week. Take care.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit.